Welcome to the Tied Together podcast, where we feature everyday people doing extraordinary things. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share so others can join in on the conversation too. Today's guest went from psychology major to senior financial analyst to co-founder and chief operating officer of Esrever Wines. After years of due diligence and overcoming obstacles, Jasmine and her two best friends launched their wine company and watched their dreams come to reality. They have since been featured on amazing platforms such as Travel Noir, Wine Enthusiast, and most recently, the summer 2020 print edition of Bartender magazine. Finding time to balance motherhood, full-time employment, and a business got even more rigid when her and her business partners were noticed and signed on to Discovery Channel's new reality show, I Quit, featuring entrepreneurs who are following their passions. Please welcome the dreamer and the doer, Jasmine Dunn.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Keisha.
You are very
awesome
welcome.
Platform. I'm excited to be here. So thank you.
Awesome. I'm happy to have you here. Coming from just being so young and being friends to just watching you blossom into who you are today is awesome to see.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you. So let me ask you this about Esrever Wines. How hard was it to launch a wine company, or was it relatively easy?
Well, it was extremely challenging, and it still is challenging. This has been 9 years in the making. And when you come from a background where pretty much nobody in your family has ever started a business, owned a business, ran a business, you grew up with the notion of go to school, get a job, or get a city job, or get a trade, get a good job where you have a 401k or retirement and retire. So with that cycle being embedded in my head, because that's all that my mom knew and her parents knew, that was embedded in me. So it was kind of like a tug of war. And also I was extremely uneducated in terms of business. So all three of us, I could speak for all three of us when I say that we were literally learning as we went. And when you don't have a blueprint and you go to YouTube University or Google University, you're only limited to what is on those platforms. But it's nothing like being in it and having somebody who was in it with you or has been in that field already and is like, look, don't do this, do this, or try this, see if you like this. But my advice from what I learned and my experience was to do this. We didn't have that. So somebody can start a wine company today and flourish in a year and a half. It took us 9 years. We were extremely young when we started. So yes, it was extremely challenging. And the number one challenge was capital. Didn't have any. And businesses can attest to that. We didn't have capital. We didn't have credit. We didn't have a silver spoon, and we didn't have this trust fund waiting for us. We had our 9 to 5s. We had our families, and that was it. So yes, it was very challenging.
I can imagine. And that can seem like some impossible roadblocks to get over and get past. Not even how, but why start a wine company? There are a lot of wine companies out there, first of all. Yeah. So it can seem daunting to even try to meet or surpass any of them. So what was it inside of you that wanted to start that?
So initially, my friends and I, we like to drink, to be honest. We're from Queens, New York. We like to have a little drink, turn up, have a good time. And we like to drink in the house, like socially in the house, have just let our hair down. The weekend's here, let's cook, let's chill, let's talk, let's have a good time. And my mother drank Pinot Grigio a lot. So growing up, your parents have their alcohol cabinet. They didn't hide it. My mother didn't hide drinking because my mother wasn't an alcoholic and she was responsible. So I grew up thinking that drinking alcohol as an adult is okay. It's not a bad thing. It's not like, oh, you can't drink, it's the devil.
Right.
It's taboo. I grew up with my mother keeping it real. You get older, you're responsible, you want to have a drink, you're grown, you can do what you want to do. So I always looked at drinking alcohol in a very responsible way. And my mother loved Pinot Grigio. So naturally, I turned to wine more so over any other alcoholic beverages. I just became a natural wine drinker. And as much wine and alcohol that me and Ashanti and Taishimia, my other two business partners, as much alcohol as we consumed, we said, you know what? We drink so much daggone alcohol. We need to start our own alcohol company because we just spend so much money on alcohol. And that was combined with the fact that we were entrepreneurs at heart. We've started so many businesses. They've lasted a while. They failed. They've crashed and burned. We picked ourselves up and we just came up with the next idea. And it was just a natural thing that all of us had. We never wanted to work. We never wanted to have somebody tell us what to do. We wanted to be our own boss and just figure out a way to do that since nobody before us has done that. So that's pretty much how it started, sitting at my mother's table, drinking some wine, and we're like, hey, we need to just do this ourselves. And at that moment, it wasn't like we're three Black women and we're going to take on the wine world and the wine industry because it's not a lot of us in this industry. That was the furthest thing from our mind. It was more so like, look, we need to come out with a wine brand for like our generation. That was another thing. I didn't know a lot of people in their early 20s who were just kicking back and drinking wine. Not in New York, at least. So we also wanted to bring a younger feel to drinking wine and showing everybody also that it's other wine out there except for Moscato. Because in the Black community, because of what's in songs and what's in music videos, and the fact that it tastes sweet, most minorities, they love them some Moscato. And it's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like they love Moscato because that's kind of all they see, so it's kind of all they know. So we also wanted to like break that mindset and introduce other varietals to us, our age, our generation.
Talk to me about some of those early fails. You said you and your best friends had other businesses prior to Esrever. Talk to me about some of those early fails and how that helped you shift to where you are now.
So for me personally, me and one of my partners, Taishimia, we started an online shoe boutique called Climb My Heels. And again, no experience, no nothing, just going to YouTube University and just figuring it out. And we ran into one of the same issues. We ran into capital. And we realized sooner than later that when you're wholesaling and you're looking to retail, you have to build up your inventory. So you need to put a lot of money into inventory and you need to put a lot of money into marketing. And we soon realized that we run out of money and it's just, we couldn't keep up with like the demand. We were always just going to be right here. And we just stopped. And I don't want to say that we quit because we're not quitters. We just stopped. And we realized, okay, we really don't know how to get capital. We're not sure how to get capital. We was kind of like scared of loans. We didn't interest. We just wasn't really educated. We just didn't know. And we just thought that you fund your business with your own money. You take money out of your own bank account and you're working hard and that's how you fund your business. But with all other things that you have to pay for, bills, other expenses, that dream soon kind of crashed and burned.
Yeah. That makes sense. I look at failures as lessons. I don't necessarily look at them as just failures. I think a failure is truly a failure if you just stop. So or just leave it alone. So you stopped the shoe boutique, but you didn't really quit because you used those lessons to push you forward into other ventures like Esrever. And then you mentioned that, so for 9 years total, you've been, I think you prepped for 5 years it was? Because in 2018 you launched. Is that right?
That's correct.
So you did 5 years of preparation. And I'm sure with the other businesses, and I can be this way too, you get excited about something, you just put it out there, no homework, no nothing, just learn as you go. But you actually did your due diligence, you and your business partners. What did you learn about capital moving into this new phase?
So the number one thing I learned about capital is credit.
Mm-hmm.
It is very, very wise to build up your own credit so that you can then get business capital, or you can get a personal loan. So you can get a business loan or you get a personal loan. And if you get a business loan, if your business hasn't been established and doesn't have a lot of income coming in, a lot of sales, the first thing that the banks look for is a personal guarantor, AKA you, the business owner.
Yes.
And they're going to look to your credit because your business, hasn't established enough of its own credit. So at the end of the day, whether you're going to get a business loan or whether you're going to get a personal loan, credit. And I started really researching how to really not just build my credit, but how to maintain my credit, and how does my credit look on a piece of paper? If I was a loan officer, would I loan money to me? Would I feel secure in loaning money to me? So that was a number one thing that we kept running into, was our credit wasn't good enough. And having to hear that repeatedly, it's not a good feeling, because then the first thing you do is you look back on all of the mistakes that you've made via credit, and you say, dang, I shouldn't have got that Macy's card. I shouldn't have ran up that, Old Navy's credit card. I shouldn't have ran up that Amex. And you start to kind of feel, you kind of start to beat yourself up,
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of that for me personally, regrets. But as I went through this venture, I kind of turned those regrets, like what you just said, into lessons, because if I never went through that, then I'm never going to know where I never want to be again. I know for a fact that I never want to be in certain financial situations again when it comes to credit. And therefore, I can teach my children at their young age, which I wasn't afforded, what not to do, so that when they do get my age and they're 20, 21, and they want to start a business, they know exactly what not to do.
Yeah. Yeah. What were you taught about credit growing up, if anything?
Honestly, I wasn't really sat down and taught about credit. It was more so from watching my mom and how she used credit. And growing up, I didn't know anything about like credit or debit.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew she either pulled out a plastic card, or she pulled out cash. As I started to get older, I realized that my mom accumulated a lot of credit card debt. And me personally, I never seen my mom struggle or hear her say things like, oh God, I racked up all this debt. I got to pay these credit cards, and these creditors are after me. They keep calling my phone. I never really experienced that in the household, but I did experience that a lot just in the community and from other people, and watching that on TV, and things like that. Right. But in terms of it specifically, what I did learn that paying your bills on time is a must. Mm-hmm. One thing I've learned from my mother in terms of credit is my mother paid her bills on time. I don't care what she had to do, how much overtime she had to work. She was very adamant about paying her bills on time. So that was my takeaway from what I learned about credit.
Right. I was taught probably a similar lesson to you. I was never sat down and spoken to about credit. The max conversation my mother ever had with me was have good credit. But what does that mean? I'm like, okay. I had no idea what that meant, to have good credit. I just heard her words and just took it for what it was. But she did always pay her bills on time. Mm-hmm. She was very good about that. And that has taught me in my adult life to make sure I pay my bills on time. But like you, I saw people get all this credit card debt. I had family members with $20,000, $30,000 worth of credit card debt. And that's a lot right now, but on a young mind, that's $1 million. It's like, why do you have $30,000 of debt? So
like, what did you buy?
For real. So by the time I became an adult, I had Macy's card was my first store card, but I never had a credit card until I was 30 because I was scared of them. And I know my spending habits. I know I like to spend. So I'm like, you know what? Don't give me this way to spend money, and then I won't ruin it.
Right.
But by the time I got it, you know, I was very responsible with it, and I was aiming to buy a house. So I
Mm,
knew that I had to be responsible with it, utilization and whatnot.
right.
But there are small lessons in your younger years that really teach you how to move as an adult. Even if you're not sat down and spoken to, you can see how your parents are operating, or whoever
Mhm.
your mentor is or whatever, and then
Right.
apply that to your life later on.
Absolutely.
hmm So you mentioned that you did not see anybody as a business owner when you were growing up.
Hmm.
What let you know that you could do that, though?
Well, so my aunt Pat, she owned real estate and she owned a brownstone and she owned property in Myrtle Beach. She was the only person who I knew who, and at that time, I didn't look at it as owning a business. I just knew that she had like property and I didn't even really understand what that meant. But to me, it was like, okay, well, I have one home. She just happens to have like 3 or 4. Okay. I didn't look at it as that being a business. So outside of that, no. I didn't have anybody, but it was just something that was embedded in me. I couldn't even explain to you where it came from. And the fact that me and my partners were on the same page, we kind of gravitated towards each other like a magnet, because neither one of them had anybody else in their family as well who owned any businesses. But what really, I guess, jump started me was when I was with my son's father. He was an entrepreneur, self-made, plethora of businesses throughout his whole life. When he was, I think, in like junior high school, he used to buy candy and sell candy. So pretty much he would be buying it at wholesale, and he would be retailing it, and he would be selling candy to kids at school instead of like going to class. So at that young age, he was already an entrepreneur. I wasn't thinking like that when I was in junior high school or whatever the case may be. So being with him really like jump started the some sort of an educational understanding of business, and helping him run his businesses and stuff like that. I learned from experience, and that's what kind of led me to one of my businesses, like I mentioned, the shoe boutique. That's what kind of led me to do that, because my role in those businesses was what my role is currently now within Esrever, operations. That's what I'm really, really good at. I'm not the best when it comes to sales and rubbing elbows and mingling and mixing. I don't have to go to a party, but I would love to sit in front of a computer and research and do reports and do spreadsheets. And people look at me like, you'd rather do that than go to an event? Yep, because I want to make sure that the money is straight. I want to make sure that the invoices is paid. I want to make sure that the business is moving. So I learned that from being a part of his businesses, how to figure things out on my own, and how to research and how to get it done, and how to legalize a business, which is one of the most important things. You have to be legal. You can't just start a business.
Right.
So that's what really like jump started me into going out and branching out and doing my own business.
hmm There's a saying, and I hope I quote it properly, is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I see that you and your friends are going together. That can be challenging when you have different personalities that are coming together. There can definitely be great ideas and a awesome bonding, but there can be conflicts when you have personalities that come together, especially in friendship. But
Mm-hmm.
why did you know or how did you feel it was right to go at this with other people rather than to do it alone?
Well, it's very challenging for me to do certain things alone, especially at that time, because I felt like my skill and my expertise lied, and my strength lied in one area. And I knew that that one area wasn't going to propel the business. It's like if you're in a boat and you're rowing the boat, but you only have one row, you're going to just keep going around in a circle. You're never going to go straight, because you need that other row to help you go forward. So all three of us have specialized strengths naturally that allow the business to propel and go forward. And maybe now, with all of the knowledge that I've obtained throughout my years of being in business and being an entrepreneur, can I start a business by myself today? Absolutely. But one thing I learned from an online mentor that I had was running a business is not actually about your inventory, your product, how good you sell it. Running a business is about managing people, because you can't do it alone. You cannot be everywhere doing everything at every time. And you shouldn't want to be, because you want to get your business to a point where you can scale it. You want to get your business to a point where it's pretty much automated, in a sense, to where you want to start to separate yourself from the day-to-days of the business and hire somebody who may be even more skilled when it comes to marketing. So I know a little bit about marketing, but I want to hire Sarah because Sarah went to school. She's worked for this company. She's going to be able to pull my business up where it needs to be in terms of marketing. And you want to start to build a team. And that's one thing I learned, is that having a team is imperative to get your business, excuse me, to the next level. It's very, very important. So I wouldn't want to run a business by myself right now, because I am not skilled in everything. And I don't have enough time on this earth to become skilled in every single facet that I would need to run whatever businesses that I would start to, endeavor in. So I love the whole team aspect. I'm all for it.
That's dope. That's dope. So would you say, because you've been in in a financial business for quite some time, would you say that you were fully prepared to be the chief operating officer for Esrever when you got in, or did you have to learn some things along the way?
I was more prepared than I thought, because I'm very hard on myself, because I'm not the type of person that's like, I got this, girl, you got this. And then I'm like, oh shoot, help please. I kind of like pace myself, and I motivate myself, but I don't like to have like a big head or like jump ahead of things and say, I got this, and think that I rule the world in this regard, and I don't. So, because I'm very humble in that regard. So I was more prepared than I thought I was, but I did have to learn things pertaining to being an operations officer in a wine business. So it's certain things that is tailored towards wine, in the wine and alcohol industry, that I had to learn. But it wasn't nothing that like was so hard I had to go to school for, or I was just crying, staying up awake at night because I couldn't figure it out. It's just a matter of time, taking the time out to do the research, or reaching out to whoever you need to reach out to just ask a simple question. And that's just what I had to do. So that aspect of it is not challenging. It's just finding the time to do it with all the other things I have going on, and be on top of what I need to be on top of. So nobody like Ashanti or Ty isn't calling me like, Jasmine, how come you didn't do this, or how come you didn't do that? I don't want anybody to ever have to wait for me to do what I need to do. So it's just trying to find the time that was the most challenging part of it.
Right. Time seems to be something that people really, really struggle with in order to pursue their dreams, or just something that they want to do, whether it's exercising, riding bikes, or, but particularly for this episode, just talking about getting into business. There are things that you have to learn, and people struggle with time. And just from seeing what your life is like, you had to struggle with time as well. You have 2 children. One is a little bit older, but then you have a younger child that's only 2. You work full time, and you're also the chief operating officer of Esrever. How do you find the time? Is it just saying to yourself, I have to do this? Or do you eliminate something else? What's the focus when you find this time to learn different aspects of the business?
So realistically, we all have 24 hours in a day. So something is going to always be at the bottom, and something is always going to be at the top, and there's going to be a whole bunch of things in the middle. That's just how it is, because I can't do everything at the same exact time. So sometimes how I work is I just get up and I just do whatever comes to mind. Like whatever I remember to do, just do it. Like I have those days sometimes where it's not organized. It's more of like organized chaos in a sense, because sometimes I can't stick to a schedule because I work based on my mood. Now, if things are pressing, I know I have deadlines, I know things have to be done by a certain time, I just prioritize those things. And one thing that I do, and I hate to say this word, but I multitask. I literally multitask. My headphones are my best friend. I can have my headphones in, tuck my phone in my back pocket. I could be cooking, be on a business call, and have my computer right there next to the stove. And I'm literally doing 3 things at once, and I don't even realize it. And at the same time, I'm talking to my daughter because she's 2. She doesn't understand mommy's on a meeting, or mommy's on a call, or mommy's trying to cook lunch, or mommy has to do this. So I'm literally like an octopus. I feel like I have really like 8 hands. And when I look back at the end of the day and I lay down, I'm like, I don't know how I did this by myself.
Yeah.
I just do it. And I don't think like, how am I going to do this? Oh my God. Oh, I have a lot to do today. I literally never think like that. I just do it. I just get it done. That's just how I am. Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Most times, or not most times really, but the path of least resistance is, like you mentioned earlier, is to get a full-time job, maybe work for the city, get a 401k, and retire. Your day is set up. You know what you're doing at 9 a.m., 10 a.m. You know what time you come home, what time you're eating dinner, you take a shower, you go to bed. That is a path of least resistance. But entrepreneurs, people that open businesses, that is not the path of least resistance. You're definitely setting yourself up for challenges. You're definitely setting yourself up to struggle for a little bit, but there can be a huge victory at the end. What's your why behind pursuing this path and not going the path of least resistance?
Well, it's funny that you said the path of least resistance, because how I also look at that cycle that you just mentioned is boring. It's predictable. You wake up, you do the same thing every day. And every job that I've ever had, it drove me crazy that I got up, got on the train, or got on the bus, or got in my car, depending on what era I was in, went to work, saw the same people, had the same attitude, did the same job, went like that monotony. When I tell you, it drives me crazy. And I looked at people who were older than me at these jobs and in their 40s, 50s, and they were the most miserable people there. Those are the people that you really don't see smile. You don't hear them come to you, girl, I'm so glad you work at this company. Stay here because, you're going to retire in 35,000 years. And I never heard that. So it's like looking at these people that are miserable and envisioning myself waste my life and end up just like them and sit in that same seat 20, 30 years from now. And that literally, like, that scared me.
Yeah.
That was my fear.
Yes.
That was my wake-up call to where I don't want to be that person. I don't want to live like that. And that's, for some people, that's safe. And that is fun. And that's what they like. It's predictable. It's comfortable. So don't get me wrong when I say that it's not a problem with that. But it just wasn't for me.
Yeah, I understand. I understand because I feel the same way. There's nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5 at all. And some people's passion and purpose is in the job that they're doing that does require that schedule, and they do an awesome job at it, and they motivate the people that work with them, and it's awesome. But like you, I feel the same, that it's just not for me. When I think I was 19 because I was teaching at the time, and I was getting on the bus to go to work, and there was this older lady. She looked like, to me, she was in her 80s, and she was hunched over, had a really heavy bag. I don't know what was in the bag, maybe books or something, but very heavy bag, and looked as if she was going to work. And of course, we all let her get on the bus first, and she was struggling to get on. And I remember looking at her and thinking, I don't want that to be me. At 80 years old, having to go to work. Of course, she had to do what she had to do. But if my body is broken down and I have to be getting ready to get on the bus at 6 a.m., I just didn't want that to be me. Yep. I wanted to, unless it was my choice, not because I had to do it. So every time I think about taking on a new project or stopping something, I always remember that I don't want to be the lady at 80 getting on the bus, struggling because I got to get to work on time, know? So switching gears just a little bit, tell me about some of the unexpected victories you've had?
Oh man. In life? Just in life, period?
Sure. Yeah, let's go with life.
Okay, because I just want to make sure you wasn't speaking of business specifically.
We can get to that, but give me a life victory first.
Well, definitely, I don't want to say unexpected, but my children. You know, when you are in a relationship and you find out that you're expecting, sometimes it is a surprise, because whether they're planned or not, you don't know that that's going to be the day that that's actually going to happen. And both of my children were planned, but it was still like, wow, I felt like I reached a plateau in my life. I feel like I accomplished something because I came from such a powerful mother that I knew growing up that I always wanted to be a mother, because I wanted to pass that on and really like repopulate the world, you know, but I wanted to pass that on to my children, but do bigger and better things than what my mother even was able to do for us. So I definitely feel like being a mom is a victory. Like it's challenging. It has its highs and lows, but at the end of the day, that was a huge victory for me. I feel like I have a lot of little victories, because I'll have moments where I feel like I can't get through something, or something is really, really bothering me, or I do not see a way out. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know how in the world, like a miracle will have to happen. Like God will have to come down and say, child, I got this, because I don't see a way out. And those little victories, I feel like once I stopped and I prayed and I gave it up to God, and I'm so big on that, because I'm a testimony to that. Once I stopped stressing about certain things, the next day, literally, God blessed me. I feel like me moving out from New York to Atlanta, well, to Georgia, really changed my whole life. And I felt like I was stagnant in New York, and I felt like I've reached my max. So I felt like there were no more victories to accomplish. Nothing else was really going to come for me if I stayed stuck in New York. And coming out to Georgia, that's actually when we got back into Esrever, and we started to push it again, because there's moments that we stopped. We stopped within those 9 years. We just was like, okay, we hit a brick wall. We don't know what to do. But I feel like once I moved out here and I changed my mindset, a lot of doors started to open up for me. So a personal victory in terms of with Esrever, us actually getting the wine, like as easy as that sounds, the struggle of getting from the grape to the bottle in your hand was very, very challenging and very, very expensive. We made a lot of financial mistakes. So when we actually got that bottle in our hand that day, that was like one of the biggest victories that I could put on having a child. Like it was on that level. It was huge, 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 huge. So I just feel like it's just been a lot of little things though that have really continued to motivate me to like get to where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that's dope. So let's talk about the lack of light at the end of the tunnel, because everybody faces that. You know, I've had moments in my own life where it just seems hopeless. Like I'm never gonna come out of this. Like I have ruined it forever. And now I'm finished. In those moments, and this moment of release, because like you, I have faith in God. And I believe when I take my hands off of it and let him do it, that's when, you know, his power can really take hold.
Yep.
But the release is hard. You know, I can see me. I know what my hands are capable of. So I like to have my hands on it. And then when I let it go, I just feel like it's going to drop. Tell me how you're able to let it go, what that release process looks like for you.
That release process is one thing and one thing only. And I just read this in a book that my mom got me the other day. That release process is called faith. You have to have faith. If you have a God, whatever God you believe in or whatever you believe in, period, and you have faith in that being, in that process, let it go. You're the one who believes in this being, this God, this higher power. So why believe in it? Why believe in it at all? If you know what I'm saying, like, what's the point? So when you think about that, you just have to have faith, like genuine faith. So yes, it is very challenging, and I go through those moments at night because during the day is so much stuff going on. I kind of like don't get in that frame of mind. But when everything is settled, everyone is asleep, all the dishes are done, everything is just done, and I'm literally sitting there in silence, that's when everything comes crashing in, because it's like, oh, you don't have nothing else occupying your brain? Okay, now it's time for the craziness. So it's all about having faith and literally speaking it verbally. Words are powerful. Your words have energy. So I speak sometimes what my issues are, what I need help with, what I need, whatever I'm asking for, I speak it, I manifest it, and then I let it go. And I literally have to let it go, because you could say, oh, I'm gonna give it up to God, but in an hour or so, you just stressing about it again. You really didn't let it go. So I literally have to walk, like, verbally get it out. And before I do any of that, I thank God. Mm-hmm. I thank him. Mm-hmm. And let God know that I know it's a rough time. I'm going to thank you for the good times and the bad times, because if it wasn't for the bad times, I would never fully appreciate the good times. So I go through a process before I want to let things go to God, or I'm praying, or I'm asking for something. I'm not just like, look, God, I need you to let me win the lotto. Look, God, and I have prayed that. I'm going to be honest. I'm sure a lot of people have prayed to ask, look, God, I don't care about anything else. I just want to win the lotto. That's going to fix my whole problem. But, I had to also, as I grew and matured, you gotta be careful what you pray for. You gotta be mindful what you pray for. And God's not going to give you what you really don't need when you don't need it. Mm-hmm. I don't need to hit the lotto. That's not really what I need. Is that going to fix all of my problems? No. Is it going to alleviate some of my problems? Yes. But it's not going to fix it. So I started to break down structurally and kind of like compartmentalize like what I really need to be successful. And money is not everything,
Right.
So yes, faith.
Yes, I agree. And then you spoke about, moving to Georgia. You all restarted Esrever. What got you all out of that stopping moment and said, you know what, we really need to kick this forward and keep going, especially the last time, because now you have the bottle in your hand and you're touching it, you feel it. What got you from the, well, maybe not, to, yeah, definitely we're moving forward with this?
It was the lady on the bus syndrome. It was, okay, well, I don't have Esrever. So what do I have? I have my 9 to 5. So how does that look? It's getting up every day. It's driving through traffic. It's going here. Somebody telling you what to do. And what I also started to do, because I'm in finance, that's my background, I looked up the CEOs of my company, the COOs, because if I'm a COO, okay, my company has a COO too. Let me see what they're looking like. What's their profile? Let me see what their salary is. I looked at the profits of my company. I looked at how many employees work for my company. Monetarily, what does that look like for my company? Now, where do I fall on that scale? I'm really, really, really on the bottom. I don't even have a management position. I have a good position, but I'm not even management. So I'm pretty much at the bottom. And what does my income look like compared to the COO of my company? So that means that I'm getting up and I'm stressed out. I'm working all day. I'm away from my family. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, even though I chose to do it. And even though I'm paying my bills, I'm grateful for that. But this is what my life is looking like. And this is what my life can look like for my own company. So if I can work for somebody else's company and build their company and build their dream, why can't I do that for myself? And that's when it hit me, like, why can't I do that for myself? If I'm not happy and I'm not satisfied and I'm not fulfilled, am I just going to keep saying that for years and years and become the old lady on the bus, or become the old ladies in my office that I've seen every day, drinking their coffee, walking down? Do I really want to be that person? So I realized, like, it's me. It's me. And I have something sitting here, AKA Esrever, where it's just sitting waiting for me to water it. I had to water it. And I'm too busy watering my job fully, and I'm not trying to figure out how to water this company. I have this idea, everything right here, and I have partners, and we were all going through the same thing. So that's kind of what, like, when I moved out here, I was able to think differently. I had a peace of mind. I was free. I didn't have a lot of feelings that I had when I was in New York. So it opened up my mental, and it allowed me to start thinking differently about where do I want to be in my life.
Mm-hmm. I had the same feeling when I moved to Georgia. It was definitely a big reset for me.
Mm-hmm.
I lost everything that I had attached to my identity. I wouldn't say I really knew who I was, but I attached to myself teacher. I attached to my identity the car that I drove, where I lived, what I could afford. That was Keisha.
Mm-hmm.
And when I lost all those things outside of losing myself truly, I really had to sit with myself and figure out what I wanted for my life.
Mm-hmm.
And really reset and start pursuing more things for my life. And I think there's something awesome about a changing environment, or even just a change in your own mindset, because your mindset is its own environment. You know, it could be cloudy and gray and dirty, or it could be full of flowers and water. Not everybody's going to change states like we did,
Mm-hmm.
or even
Mm-hmm.
move to different neighborhoods. They may just stay in the same household. But in speaking of environments, whether that's physical or in your mind, tell me what you think, or why you think a change in environment is so good for moving to the next step.
Well, a change in environment is important, both, like you said, mentally and for me physically, because number one, I grew up traveling. So I was exposed to other neighborhoods, other nations, other worlds that I would only see on TV. And you can see something on TV all day, but when you're physically there in the moment, it's nothing like that. So I already knew in the back of my mind, it's more out there to New York.
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, having kids for me does something to you. You mature overnight. You should, at least. You mature overnight. It's not about you anymore. You become, like, I became a different person, and I looked at myself as a woman anyway, but I became a woman after I had a baby. And now it's not about me. It's about my son and what's best for him. And that is what kicked off me changing my mental environment. Okay, what do I want for him that I didn't have? Where do I want him to grow up? Where do I want him to go to school? What do I want him to learn? Who do I want him to be around? And once I start asking myself those questions, I'm looking for an answer. Can I obtain this answer where I am? Do I like the answer that's around me? No. So that's what transitioned from me changing my mental environment to me having to change my physical environment. And the good thing about it was that I had family down here. Mm-hmm. So I was able to come down here and see and put myself in the moment of how would my environment look if I came down here and took that leap by myself, just me and my child. That's very hard to do. Even if you have family, I was able to stay in my brother's house. He had a whole extra bedroom. But I knew that wasn't a permanent thing. It was just a transitional phase for me. But I thank God that I had that, because it did allow me to transition when I came down here and not had to just necessarily be on my own. But as I came down here and I visited, I really put myself here. How does this look now? How do I answer those questions that I asked myself in New York? How do I like the answers now where I'm at? I kind of like these answers. I like how this feels. And one thing about me is I'm not naive. I never try to outsmart myself. I never try to play myself and try to put something in my head. I always keep it real with myself. So I wasn't naive in saying that, oh, I like it down here. I like how this makes me feel. I was straight up 100. Like, how do you like this environment? Drive around, look around. What is this going to look like? And once I did that, I was like, oh yeah, it was just a feeling like this is where I had to be. And I feel like if I don't like it, guess what? I can always go back.
Yeah.
It's not like permanently like I have to be here and I can never go back home. And that's another thing that sparked something in me like, yeah, I can just go back if I don't like it. So I literally took that leap of faith and I just did it. And it was the best decision that I have ever made in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Literally.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you on the same thing. It was, I won't even say it was scary because I really didn't have a choice. I had lost everything, like I said. But building back up was scary. Not knowing if I would be able to do it was scary. And a lot of people may look at change in their environment and their financial status as impossible. They look at it as something they can't obtain, something they can't succeed. If you had to give them a recipe for getting from stuck to unstuck, what would you say that recipe would be?
To me, that recipe would be to start writing stuff down. Because sometimes we have so much stuff jumbled up in our heads and we wake up the next day and we don't even remember what our train of thought was, or we had a good idea, or we thought about something. And it's literally, it could be like gone for forever in your brain. So my advice is to write it down. And a lot of times what I do is I do a pros and a cons list. And I write all of the positive things that was going to happen if I did this X, Y, and Z. And what is like the negative things. And more importantly, I was just being very real and I was being very honest. No matter how weird a pro and a con could be, or no matter how funny, or no matter how silly, or no matter how crazy, if that's what I felt in the moment, I would write that down. And this way you have something tangible in front of you. And you can look at that even when you wake up in the morning. Sometimes you have a different mindset. You may feel a little bit happier, a little bit sadder, or a little bit more motivated, or you saw something on TV and made you feel a certain type of way. And you look at your list, you have it there. And it really allows you to really gauge and judge the moves that you need to make. Even a book, like I have paper everywhere. I have books everywhere because I have a book for this. I have a book for that. I have a book for this because I write things down, and that's just what works for me. And I have references to go back to, and it helps me make the best decision. So that's my advice. Start writing it down and write it out.
Yeah. It even says in the Bible to write the vision and make it plain. People speak about vision boards and putting things out into the universe, and there's nothing wrong with any of that. I definitely have a vision board, but there's something about making it tangible, something that you can see every day. Yep. I have a list of just things that I'd like God to do for me. I have a gratitude book. I have a regular journal. So yes, I'm with you. I have probably a stack of books like this. I'm like, Keisha, couldn't you condense that into 2 books?
Right.
They all serve their purpose, but I do believe in writing things down. Right. Because you do get scatterbrained and you forget to do a certain thing, or you do it out of order. I like to do the hardest things in the morning when I'm awake, when I'm fully alert, because after lunchtime, I kind of want to take a nap and I'm really struggling and I'm not really as focused. I'll do it anyway, but I just schedule my day to when I'm the most energized. If you're energized at night, definitely do your hardest things at night, but schedule it out, write it down. I definitely agree with that. Definitely. Yeah. Who would you say that you had to become in order to be the mom, the entrepreneur that you are today?
Wow. I think I needed to become the best version of me. I can't compare myself to anybody else. I may take bits and pieces from certain things that I like about people, like bits and pieces from my mom, bits and pieces from my aunt, bits and pieces from a best friend of mine. But I feel like I had to become the best version of me because I knew it was so much potential, and there still is. That's just deep down in there. I have to fish it out, and I have to continue to fish it out. So that's what I had to do. And I had to really figure out how to truly love myself. I loved myself, but how to like truly love myself. What did I want? What do I need to be successful? What's going to make me the best mom? What's going to make me the best entrepreneur? Me. And not even comparing myself to anybody, because we all have different stories. And I may compare myself to you from based on what I see on social media or based on what I knew when you was younger. I don't know what it's like to be Keisha. Right. You don't know what it's like to be me. You could be battling with something right now that I would die. If you know what I'm saying, I wouldn't be able to make that. But you are pushing through it and vice versa. So I had to just learn how to be the best version of Jasmine.
Yeah. When you talk about loving yourself, what things do you have to let go of in order to love yourself?
The regret, the mistakes that, and let me correct myself, at that moment I feel like it was a mistake. Mm-hmm. But if I didn't make that mistake, would I be here where I am today? I would have maybe took a detour and went somewhere else, and who knows where I would be. So I had to like forgive myself for things, and I had to just learn how to let things go. And I had to also learn how to live with certain things that are just always and forever going to creep up on you. You could just be watching a movie and something reminds you of something, and you may get like, oh my God, it reminds me of this bad time. Or you could smell something like a cologne or a flower, and it reminds you of a time years ago or something that you did. And these things just hit you like a ton of bricks sometimes. You're not even thinking about it. So when those moments come, I had to learn how to not to beat myself up about it. And I had to let myself know that thank God I'm not in that situation still. Thank God I've grown from that. I've learned from that. And I passed all my education, my knowledge of what I learned to other people who may be going through the same thing. And I have advice now. I have testimony now. And it is what it is. Like, I'm telling you, if it is what it is was a word in the dictionary, you would see my face. I am so big on like things are what they are and things are going to be what they're going to be. Manifest it, plan it, write it out, make it happen. If it happens, it was meant to be. If it didn't happen, it's just think about something else. I'm so lax when it comes to certain things, like, and I had to learn how to be that way because I just beat myself up, drive myself crazy, have so many regrets. Or I should be here right now. I should have this. I'm 30, they're about to be 34. Or I should have this, I should do this, I should be here. But really, I'm exactly where I need to be. As long as I keep doing what I need to do to get to the next level, then I should be proud of that. Mm-hmm. And I really had to learn that. And honestly, I've recently learned that. I'm going to be honest. Within this past year, I have recently learned everything I just said.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You know, it's, and I hope that your story and my story can just motivate people and help them to understand that your current situation is not it. It's not your final destination. And mm-hmm. You and I are both familiar with being in spaces that we have created for ourselves that are just horrible. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why did I do that to myself? What was the point? Or that other people have inflicted on you or on myself that we've had to come up out of. But the testimony is worth it. If you're anybody watching this, if you care about how people feel, your testimony is worth it. To mm-hmm. know that you came out of that and then you could turn around and tell somebody else so they don't have to feel like their life is over and they don't have to feel like they're the only one. It's absolutely worth it.
Right.
I was speaking to a friend of mine recently that said, you can't rob anybody of their rock bottom, which sucks for me because I try to rob people of their rock bottom all the time. But but it is good for you to hit your rock bottom because then you grow from that place. Yeah. But at least while you're at your rock bottom, somebody like you or myself could turn around and tell them, it's not it. That's not your landing spot. Mm-hmm. You know, you're going to grow from this place and it's going to be awesome if you just keep pushing. That's it.
And what makes that even more challenging while we're going through that, before we're able to give an advice on that tidbit, is that for me, things that have happened to me in my life it wasn't my fault. It was what people have done to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's because I'm overly giving. I'm just super nice, super loving. I look at people for the good that they have in them, and I don't see the bad, or I make an excuse for the bad. Like, well, if I just do this for this person, they'll become a better person, and I feel like now they're my responsibility. And I'm a nurturer by nature. And that was my problem, because the people that I was like that with didn't deserve it, didn't appreciate it, and I ended up getting the short end of the stick. And I ended up being the one who was burned. And it was constantly just people doing stuff to me. And I had to reevaluate my circle. I had to reevaluate my life. Like, why do people feel like they could treat me like this? I'm like the nicest person on the earth. Like, why would you feel like you could treat me like this? So that's hard. That's an even worse feeling than if you did something and you're like, I know I'm not supposed to be doing this, but I don't care. And then something happens and you're like, well, I kind of deserve that. I knew what the consequences was.
Right.
So that's not my story.
Mm-hmm.
My story is just me being me, a loving, fun, bubbly person, giving people this, being very giving and open. And then all of a sudden somebody does something and I'm like, whoa, why would you do that to me? Me? Of all people? And then also like forgiving them for doing something that was so bad and continuing to let them do these bad things to me. So I had to really grow from that, you know, and I had to also make sure that that didn't make me hard and make me cold, and still learn how to be a better version of the nice me and a more wiser version of the giving and loving me. And that was a part of my journey where I just kind of came to that point about a year or so ago too. I had to learn how to really be mindful of how and what I give to people and how I let people into me. Now you got a lot of hoops and bounds, honey, to get through. Like it's just like it's not easy, you know. It's not easy because you can't just be so open with people because they just take advantage of you,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Just setting boundaries, you know. Boundaries are not a bad thing at all. At all. You can't let people into every facet of your life.
Right.
And you can still be kind and giving with boundaries. So that's awesome that you've discovered that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's get back to Esrever.
Okay.
What are your hopes and dreams for the company, or are you just in the now and just present with where you are today?
Well, a little bit of both, because as you mentioned in your beautiful, wonderful, very well-spoken intro that I love, Esrever has landed a feature on Discovery's new show, I Quit. And yes, we are living in that moment, because even though we filmed a year and some change ago, it's like reaping those benefits now. And we're living in that moment like, wow, like none of us has ever been on a major TV platform. And this is all new to the three of us. So it's very exciting. And I don't want to get caught up in looking too much into the future to it. I'm not enjoying the moment. But at the same time, yes, we do have plans for the future. The business still has to run itself. Discovery Channel isn't the end goal for Esrever. It's really just the beginning. So we definitely want to become a household brand, and we want to introduce Esrever on a wider platform that, yes, you can be young, you can be Black, you can be a woman, and you cannot know what the hell you're doing, but you can make it in the wine industry. Yes, you can. That's my goal. I want other people to look and see, oh, shoot, if they could do it, and then they see the real deal of all the stuff that we went through and we still came out and we're still successful. Oh, I could do that, or I could do this, or I could do this. So I want people to really take that away from the show. But in terms of like our goals, besides coming a household brand, we do want to be in those everyday places that you see. We want to be on airplanes. You know, we want to be that one Black company, and hopefully it'll be more minority-owned companies on airplanes if you want a little drink while you're going on a vacation that you deserve. We want to be in the supermarkets where you're just grabbing a bottle of wine, you're having a girlfriend's weekend. We want to be available to those everyday places that people go. We want to be in hotels. We want to be in places like that. So that's our goal, to really get large distribution deals to where we can become accessible. So if people specifically say, hey, do you have any Black-owned brands? Yes, we do. We have Esrever. And then we have X, Y, and Z, because I don't want it to just be Esrever. That's not my mindset. I want us all to eat. I want it to now be a plethora of different type of wines, whether you just like the way the wine tastes, you like the way the wine looks, or you like the story behind it. You have a choice now. Before you didn't have a choice. Well, sourcing out a Black-owned beverage or alcohol brand is limited, especially in the wine industry. And we want people to have those options now. So it's just about making connections. It's about networking. It's about building our brand up to be the best that it could be, and just getting it out there. And I'm thankful for Discovery, because I feel like it's putting us on a higher platform and reaching a larger audience than what we can do outside of our social media or our website or our friends and family. It's putting us on a platform to be able to do that, and it's reaching a larger audience.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have been doing an awesome job of getting your brand out there, because you're in New York, in Queens and Brooklyn in stores. You're in Delaware, and you're in the Bahamas. So, you're even as far as that. So you guys have been doing a great job promoting yourself in Pennsylvania. Yep. You've been doing a great job promoting
Bermuda.
Bermuda, sorry. Yes, not the Bahamas. Bermuda. I didn't know that.
But you spoke, see, Bahamas.
Well, you'll be there next. You'll be there next. And Ashanti already told me how to get you in the stores in Georgia, so I'm on my way. I will be there. But I'm super excited for what you've done for yourselves already, and then having Discovery highlight you. I can't wait till other people are just asking, well, can they be in my store? Can they be in this restaurant and in this hotel? And then I visited a restaurant and didn't even know you were in there, and just go ahead and order me a glass. So I can't wait to see that. I can't wait.
Me too. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm really excited to continue to follow your journey, not just with Esrever, but your own personal journey, and just watch you grow and continue to be the person that you are. I've said this before to other guests, and it does not make it ingenuine. I really, really mean it, because I've known you since I was about 12.
Yeah.
Right. But I am not surprised that this is who you are today. It's not a shock. It's not. I think it's so funny when you see people grow up, and whether they go the right way or the wrong way, it's kind of like, yeah, I kind of saw that coming. Not to say that there can't be change for people that have gone the wrong way, but in you, I'm not surprised that you're the person that's nice and giving, and the person that started her own wine company. You were always very well put together and enjoyed everything about being feminine. So wine for you just makes sense. It just makes sense. And people always gravitated towards you. So I see Esrever becoming a big deal. I don't know your partners personally. I would love to speak highly of them. I'm sure they're awesome, but I don't know them, so I won't lie on it. I know you're awesome, and I can't wait to watch you grow.
Thank you. That really means a lot. When people who really know you, when people say that, it kind of like makes you sit back like, oh, wow, like that's not something that I think about every day. Not that I don't build myself up, but I don't go around every day like, you're awesome, and I knew you was going to be this awesome girl. Like, I just, I have like daily affirmations that I say, but it's more so like what I want and who but to say something like that from, like you said, we've known each other since we were about 12. It's like, wow, thank you. That means a lot.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I say you're welcome, but your welcome doesn't feel genuine, because I didn't do it. You are who you are. God made you who you are. But I guess you're welcome for speaking it to you so that you could receive it from somebody else. But you're awesome, and I know you're going to continue to do well. So last question, Jasmine. Is there a quote that you live by?
I wouldn't say it's a quote per se, but it's something that I always make sure I tell myself. And I ask myself, what is my greatest aspiration in life, and it's to be happy. And I live by that every day, whether things are good or whether things are bad. So whatever your aspiration is, end your sentence with your word. And my greatest aspiration is to be happy, period.
That's dope. What does happy look like for you?
Happy is being free. Happy is accomplishing all of my dreams, all of my goals. Happy is seeing my kids be better versions of me at their age than I was. Happiness is seeing that my whole family is successful. Happiness is seeing my friends like you start businesses and get into philanthropy and get their name out there. Like, happiness is such on a broad spectrum for me that is outside of me, because I'm very simple, I'm very modest. I don't need much in life. I really don't. But what really makes me happy is to see other people genuinely making moves, making money, being successful, being happy. I indulge in other people's happiness sometimes more than my own. And that's just a little bit of things, because I could sit here all day and tell you what happiness means to me, but those are the main things of what makes me happy.
That's dope. That's dope. That really piggybacks to the sermon I was listening to this morning. And you hear it all the time, that it is more of a blessing to give than to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it was a whole sermon, but I really zoned in on that part. And it's really true. It is, at least for me, I don't know about everybody else, the feeling that I get when I'm blessed is good.
Mm-hmm.
But the feeling that I get when I am blessing somebody else is amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. Because you don't know how you could change somebody's life and being a blessing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I've had some life changers approach me, being a blessing to me. So it's dope to be able to turn that around and just be a blessing to somebody else. So I think it's dope that your happiness is watching other people thrive and succeed.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Jasmine, thank you so much for joining. I can't wait to speak to you again when you are doing even bigger and better things, because you're already amazing now, because I can't wait to see what that looks like then.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, thank you for this platform. I just want everybody to know, definitely tune in to the Discovery Channel Tuesday nights at 9:00. You don't want to miss it. You will definitely learn a lot about business and then about the wine industry. So it's going to be very, very fantastic. So yes, thank you so much, Keisha.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. By the time you viewers see this, I Quit will probably be going on to its third week of showing.
Okay.
As we're speaking now, your premiere will be in 2 days. Mm-hmm. So really excited about that. Yeah. So by the time anybody else sees this, well, get to watching. You got 2 episodes to catch up with, and then you have to watch the rest of them every Tuesday, 9 p.m. on Discovery.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. Bye.
Bye.
I don't think I've had a quitting moment, like where I wanted to just stop, but like it does get overwhelming sometimes. Like I'm like my mom, and I have a problem saying no. I say yes to everything, and so sometimes I tend to take on like a whole lot of projects. Like right now, I have about 1,000 murals that I'm supposed to be working on right now, like all at the same time. So I should have probably said no to some of those, but so sometimes like I just overwhelm myself with work, but I don't think I would ever quit. I don't think I can quit. Like it's like breathing. So if I quit breathing, then I'm not living. So
how do you get through the feeling of, you know, it being overwhelming? I think everybody probably has a feeling of being overwhelmed. The work's piled on, the kids, the house is dirty, the bills are due, blah, blah, blah. How do you, for me, I get into this like rut, like it's just too much, and then I'm just not doing anything. I'm just thinking about all the things that need to be done and doing nothing at all. How do you get from the nothing phase to the doing phase?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I get in that little rut, and I kind of just want to be by myself, and I go hide out in the garage or something and just stare at the canvas or something. But I don't know, like one of my daily affirmations is to just do the work. So like every day I try to do the work, no matter how big or small it is. I try to like make an effort to do something, even if it's just like even if I'm not making art, I'm reading about art, or I'm on YouTube watching about art, or I'm on Instagram looking at artists I like. So I everything is like focused on that. Like even when I'm in the rut, like it's always on my mind. So try to just keep that mindset of just do the work, like do something, like draw a line, or scribble something.
So for the artist that is on his first Jacksonville Art Walk, that's looking to sell his or her first $25 piece, and they see you and they see what you're doing, and Candace, they see you putting on these shows, what would you tell them as far as, you know, how to get themselves going, get their names out there and become bigger, like I'm sure they dream to be?
I would say I talk to a lot of artists that aren't like, I guess, like doing their art full time and things of that nature. But I'm always like, keep going, like, cause I've seen it, you know, I've seen it grow. I've seen it come from like the $25 piece to you don't sell anything that costs $25, you know. I'm always encouraging people to keep going, because I've had a lot of friends come up to me and say they've been discouraged, and I'm like, for what? like you got to do the work, because we all start somewhere. I actually was just talking to somebody yesterday, and I just told him, I said we all start somewhere. Oh, mirrorless. But yeah, we all start somewhere, and maybe what you want to do may turn into something totally different. Chris had no intentions of being a mirrorless, and now he has a lot of them already done, and a lot of big projects that some people don't even know about. They're on their way, and so I just say keep going, and I feel like you'll find like where you belong in their art. Like Chris is, I don't know, he's made himself a muralist, and he's made his work gallery worthy, you know, and so you will find where you need to go, you know. So I always just say keep going. Do the work.
Yeah,
that's what he's gonna say. Do the work.